Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Free Spirit Stories with Rayanda. I'm just here to share some of my spiritual experiences and encounters with you all today to just reach like-minded people and just to see if anybody's had similar experiences to me. So I do love a good story time, so I just thought I'd share my stories with you about fairies. And a lot of people would probably laugh at the idea of fairies existing, but they are real. And I just believe in them with all my heart because I have actually had a lot of experiences with fairies from when I was a teenager up until now. And it's just something I'd love to share with everyone about an encounter I had. So when I was 15, it was sort of my last year of school and I was staying up late doing a lot of studying for exams. And one night it wasn't too late, but it was probably the late afternoon going into the evening. I went out to my garden, and where I live, it's just an abundance of nature. And I was very blessed to have a really big garden with lots of beautiful flowers and lots of like wild birds. Deer used to come into the garden too, owls, you name it. So I was very blessed. I used to spend a lot of time out in the garden when I was a child, and it was the day I just decided to go out into the garden, spend time there. And as a child, I'd always play in the garden, and I used to really believe the fairies were there, and I used to leave out gifts. I used to speak to them, and I used to just chill out in the garden and meditate, and I used to love it, and I still do. I still go back to my childhood home. But anyway, I went out to the garden, and I just thought I'd just sit and meditate for a bit and talk to the fairies. Even though I was 15, I still enjoyed doing that. I wasn't really ready to grow up yet. And I haven't really grown up, to be honest with you. I'm still a big kid. So I went out there and then I just meditated, spoke to the fairies. I just said, hey, give me some luck for this exam I'm going to take. I'm taking a history exam. Please give me some luck. I'm really working hard. I've been staying up late all night. And, this is probably the last time I'm going to speak to you because according to my family, I've got to grow up and move on from fairies, because my granddad would always laugh at the fact I believed in fairies. And I just came to the conclusion, okay, it's my last day of high school. I should really grow up and move on from fairies. So it was the day I stopped believing. Well, it suddenly all soon changed and I really did start believing again. So I went back inside to do my studying. It was getting on for the evening. So I was studying away. And I had a lucky stone in my pocket, like a crystal, and it's like a piece of black obsidian. And I remember putting it in my pocket before going out in the garden. And when I reached for it, it'd gone. So I thought, oh my God, my lucky stone from my exam, I've got to go back and find it. So I went out in the garden and I searched high and low for this little piece of obsidian. I looked on my route I'd walked, I looked in bushes, trees, you name it. And I thought, oh, I've lost it. Well, I can't waste any more time. I've got to go back to studying. So I come back inside. I go back to where my books are on the dining room table. And on a leaf, on the green and brown leaf, my stone was sitting in the middle of the leaf. And I thought, that's weird. My brother's playing a prank on me. So I went to speak to my brother, who was probably I think he might have been about 9 at the time. And he was playing on the Xbox. And I said to him, oh, you've taken that stone from my pocket and you've put it there. And he was like, no, I haven't done that. Oh, you probably think it's the fairies, because he used to really poke fun at me about this. And I go, well, you've obviously taken it and put it on my book. And so I haven't done that. So we had this massive argument over it. And my dad even had to intervene and say, hey, stop all this, grow up, get on with what you're doing. And so he was adamant he hadn't done it. So I went back to my books, and to this day, he didn't do it because I've spoken to him about it. So I went back to my books, and I was just puzzled how this rock just appears on my books, because I definitely left it in my pocket before studying and went to the garden, and now I thought I lost it. and then suddenly it's appeared on my books. So that was strange. So as it got later, I started seeing things out the corner of my eye, like moving and like sort of running about my feet. So I'd look down and I'd think it was the cat, but it wasn't. And it was running really fast and it was like figures. And I thought, I must be really tired and I'm imagining this. And then I kept like seeing twinkles of light at the corner of my eye. And when I'd look, it would go. And then I just felt like I was being watched. And I just had to constantly like look behind like this whilst I was working. I just felt I was constantly being watched. And it was almost like there was a window behind me where I was studying. It was almost like the woods or the garden. We did have like a woods backing our garden, but the garden was almost engulfing me. It's a really strange way of explaining it because I felt like I was being swallowed. And I just felt I was being watched. And I heard like whispering. And it was like, and it was like really like obscure. I couldn't make it out. And I was like looking around thinking, what on earth is that? So I thought, I'm really tired. It's getting on for midnight. I remember looking at the clock in front of me and thinking, oh, it's getting close to midnight now. I've got to go to bed. So I went to bed. I was laying in my bed and I was trying to get to sleep and I could not get to sleep. It wasn't very, I only got into bed. It was like the first 10 minutes of getting into bed. I rolled on my side and I thought, I don't even feel tired. And then all of a sudden, I heard the whispering coming into my room and it was like this. And it was just really strange. I know I sound funny like trying to mimic it, but it was very much like that. And it was almost like a language. It was like a language I just couldn't like quite understand. And then I just felt like, I don't know, this warmth. And if I just slightly turn like this at the corner, I could see light. And I know you get light coming from a doorway if the corridor light's on outside your bedroom or whatever, but it was brighter. And I thought that's very strange. So I'm lying there listening to it all. So then about maybe 3 minutes into this, I rolled over and I was just transfixed because standing at the end of my bed was a little lady, the size of a pencil, an unsharpened pencil, so probably a little bit bigger than this, a very beautiful lady standing at the end of my bed staring at me. And she had a little boy with her, like a little toddler, and he had no clothes on. And he was just oh my gosh, he was just so adorable. And her face was just so beautiful. She had these beautiful, deep, not deep, I would actually say crystal blue eyes, but they had warmth to them. And she had this beautiful ringlet hair right down to the waist, just in these beautiful curls, like 80s hair, but immaculate. And her face was very round and she had these soft blonde eyebrows, a little nose, like it almost looked like a button nose, and these rosebud lips. And it was like she was wearing lipstick, but she wasn't. It looked natural. And her actual skin was like an olive. It was like an olive colour. And you know, like when moths have that kind of dust on them, she had this almost like this almost like pollen-y dust on her skin. Like if she went like this, it would come off. And she was just standing there looking at me with this little child. And that's the height of her. This would have been the height of the child. And she had this dress on and it was like a boob tube and it was twisted and wrapped round the top. And it was like this beautiful honey golden colour. And like all these layers of like this dress. So when if she picked it up, it was like silk layers, like that sort of gossamer layers. And all these tiny little dewdrops on her dress. They look like dewdrops to me. They could have been like shiny little pebbles. But she was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen in my life. And I know of beautiful ladies and I have beautiful friends. But this lady was just like a little angel. She was like an earthreal angel and her little boy was beautiful. And they were just smiling at me. And I'm like this. I'm just in awe. I just like, what's going on? And I just couldn't move. and they walked right up to me. They walked over my body and they came to look at me. And then in that split second, as they were coming close to look at me, he ran towards me, the little boy, and cuddled my chin. And he had the same beautiful eyes like her, and he looked very fair, had a very cheeky little face like a little sprite. And in that split second, now this will sound very strange, but I came out of my body, and I came out of my body, and I could actually see myself lying in the bed, and I could see them looking at me, and they were kind of going, she was going like this at me and smiling, and he was just cuddling my chin. And then all of a sudden, I came back into my body and I blacked out. And I woke up the next day and I thought, that was a very beautiful dream. Wow, that was amazing. But I was saying to myself it was a dream, but in my hearts of hearts, I knew I was awake, but it was so fantastical. It was just, it just felt too beautiful and magical to be true, but it really was true. And what I did was I thought, right, I'm going to go out into the garden, because I told my family about my experience. And I said, but it really didn't feel like a dream. I was saying to them, I really was awake. I just came to the conclusion, wow, this was real, And my mum said, but Miranda, you could have been dreaming, you're very sure. I went, 100%, because I've gone over and over it in my head again, and I just remember every single detail. So what I did was, because my family wouldn't believe me, there was I just felt like they just didn't really understand what I'd experienced. And what I did was I went out to my garden, and I actually spoke to the garden, and this was maybe a few years later, because I always carried that experience in my heart, because I just felt, nah, that wasn't a dream. It felt very fantastical, yes, to be a dream, but it wasn't, because I was awake. I wasn't asleep. And I remember all the details. So, so I definitely believe my hearts and hearts, this was real. So I went out to the garden, I spoke aloud and said, oh, hello, fair folk, hello, fairies, because in English culture and Irish culture, you call them the fair folk. I really appreciate you revealing yourselves to me. And I think it was really kind for you to take your time out to come and see me before the day of my exam that evening. Now, I've told my mum and dad about you, but they don't really believe me. They think I'm dreaming. So if you could perhaps go and see them and perhaps show yourselves to them so they can believe me, that would be amazing. So I just left a little offering, and I just asked them really nicely, I said, they're really kind people. My parents, they'd never want to harm you. My parents love animals. So, you can be safe. Because I'm sure they knew, these little fairies, these spirits knew of my parents. So anyway, that night, well, not that night, but the next day, my mum called me and she went, Miranda. And I went, what? You won't believe what happened at midnight. I heard all this whispering in the living room with your dad, and all these birds, and all these chimes, and all these little soft voices. And there was chimes, there was instruments, there was birds all around us. And we were looking high and low where it was coming from. And it was all around. And then we did find where it was. But as soon as we did, it disappeared. And all of the sounds, which were very loud in my mum's living room, were around this little terracotta house she had. And I said, well, Mum, I actually went out in the garden and asked the fairies to come and see you, so you know what I've been experiencing. And she was on FaceTime to me. And in that moment, a little ball of light appeared behind my mum's head. And it went like this and danced. And then it danced behind her head, then hide behind. I go, it's behind you. And she'd go, where? And then it would go. And then she'd look again and it'd come out again. And I go, it's behind you. It was like it was playing games. And I just was like, wow. I was so happy, because now my mum and dad are really open to the idea of nature spirits, fairies, you know, all connected to, you know, our English heritage. But fairies can be anywhere in the world, I believe. You know, if there's nature, there is fairies. There are nature spirits. But that is my story. And I have so many more stories, because that is just one spiritual event that happened to me to do with fairies. And yeah, I might make some more videos about how you can be, you know, invite good fairies into your life, and also how to sort of connect to the earth and nature, to be able to have these experiences in a safe way, but also, you know, in a very respectful way, to the earth and nature spirits, because, you know, it is a very powerful energy. And I feel like now, with the world the way it is, and obviously we have global warming, and I feel like as the human race, we're coming away from nature, and we're so wrapped up with technology now. I think they're really calling us back to reconnect to the earth. So if you really want to be interested in this, I'm going to make some more videos about how you can connect with nature spirits and fairies. I call them fairies, or fae folk. So that's one of my main terms I use. But I will be making some more videos soon, like perhaps with my artwork as well, because that's one of my paintings on the wall. I love to paint. And I have a lot of I've had a lot of inspiration from my spiritual experiences for my artwork. So yeah, stay tuned. Thank you so much for staying for my story, and I will be back with some more videos soon. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Bye.